Let's bring in a guy who is always at the SI swimsuit party. Chris Mannix of Yahoo, The Vertical. How you doing, Chris?
Do you guys need the substitute teacher to come in there and restore order?
No, I think we're actually treading water nicely over here, but it's good for the offer. Now, Chris,
You are.
if you were ever missing, like if you ever went missing and they couldn't find you for months at a time, I would say, you know what? Just wait till the SI swimsuit party because he'll be there, and that's where we could find him every year.
Well, that's 100% true because even though I left SI, I've been grandfathered in to swimsuit parties, assignments. I was hosting last night. I mean, I'll be in my mid-50s doing that. I probably won't be going on the extended version of the trip. I won't be going to Miami. And as I said on the show just yesterday, I left it all on the field, fellas. I'm good. I made my pitches, and whatever worked, whatever didn't, and that was most of it didn't.
Chris, me and Paulie were walking out of the party, and the bus now people don't know, there's a plane that flies immediately from the party to Miami.
Oh, I've been on it.
Yeah, I've been on it too. And me and Paulie were like, we're so old. We're like, if they just said out of nowhere, you guys can come on this plane full of swimsuit models and executives that lands at 3 a.m., we're both like, no way. We're not landing at 3 a.m. I don't care if I'm sitting next to Gigi Hadid for 3 hours. Are we lame?
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's what it was last year when I got on the plane. I think I sat next to Kelly Rohrbach, and I say I think because there was plenty of alcohol flowing that night, and things can get a little blurry at the end of it. You get on that plane no matter what. 3 a.m., you're still ready to party when you get to Nashville or Miami or wherever you're going. I mean, you do that in a heartbeat.
Is that assigned seating, or do you just get to pair up with whoever you're currently vibing with?
Well, the key is seating. Everyone always gravitates towards the back, so the models are going to get on the back of the plane. So your objective is to get there early, get on the plane first, and take a prime position, maybe exit row in the back, because these are tall people. So you grab one of those exit row seats, and you just sort of look inviting, I guess.
But then don't you get to watch model after model see you there and go, oh, I'm going to sit somewhere else. Oh, I'm going to sit somewhere else.
Yeah, but even if they do, if one does, you're still a big winner for the next 2 hours.
Boom, true.
One time, Chris, they made me sit next to Damaris Lewis. They made her sit next to me. They were like, and MJ said, the head swimsuit editor, she's like, Damaris loves basketball. You guys can talk about basketball for the whole ride. Damaris moved seats. She actually got so bored of me within 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, that's a frequent reaction from women around you, isn't it? I mean, it's not just models. It's pretty much everyone, save for perhaps your wife.
If you see a story of a swimsuit model jumping out at 30,000 feet, you could assume that one of the Danettes was sitting next to her on some type of flight down in Miami.
With no parachute.
Yep.
Chris, now
pulling the cord, opening that door.
Chris, you're with Yahoo Sports with The Vertical. What's your the trade deadline show tomorrow? Is that 3 o'clock? How do people see that?
Yeah, we've got a live trade deadline show tomorrow, 3 p.m. You can stream it on Yahoo Sports. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be there. Bobby Marks, former executive with the Nets, going to be alongside me. Brian Scalabrine is going to be a part of it. And, of course, Adrian Wojnarowski, the ultimate newsbreaker in this business, is going to be at the center of it. So we're going to be breaking deals and certainly analyzing them immediately afterwards.
Chris, now, we love the trade deadline. I love the trade deadline, but I always, after the trade deadline, get a little bummed because you don't get the deal you want. What happened overnight? I know the Detroit Pistons made a trade. How serious of a trade was that?
I think it was serious for Detroit. I mean, they get Tobias Harris. They give up Ersan Ilyasova, and they give up Brandon Jennings, two players that were good, but they're on expiring contracts and not part of the Pistons' long-term plans. Harris just signed a new 4-year deal just last offseason. He's had kind of a down year, but Stan Van Gundy loves his perimeter-oriented bigs, and Tobias Harris fits into that mold. He's a 3-4, and now all of a sudden the Pistons have 3 players in Harris, in Reggie Jackson, and soon Andre Drummond is going to re-sign this summer, locked into long-term deals. And that's important, guys, for a city and a market like Detroit. It's hard to get free agents to come there. So if you can basically take care of your free agent process at the trade deadline, as they did last year with Reggie Jackson and they did again with Tobias Harris, you've suddenly found a way to bypass free agency altogether. And I'll tell you, there are very few, if any, young cores you'd rather have more than Drummond, Harris, and Reggie Jackson.
And Van Gundy, we know, loves guys who have the first name that could be a pilgrim from the 18th century with Tobias Harris, Chris.
That's the question you go with? That's your follow-up?
That's, Dan's not here. It's his fault. Hey, let me ask about I'm reading all these stories saying everyone's gearing up for this offseason with the jump in the salary cap. Is there a fear that all the stars are going to collude on certain teams and it's going to mess up the parity of the league even further?
Yeah, there is a fear of that because, in the last 5 years, the NBA has taken great strides to make sure their stars are spread out. Now, sometimes things can happen, circumstances change, like in Miami when LeBron paired up with Wade and with Bosh, but for the most part, the NBA is really actively looking to establish an NFL level of parity. Now, though, when you have all this cap space opening up, remember the cap's going to jump from like $65 million to $92 to $95 million at the next and in next summer. There's going to be virtually every team in the NBA with max level cap space, and that's going to allow a team like Golden State, a team like the Thunder, a team like Miami, even Cleveland to have some cap flexibility to sign other players, and that could create even more super teams. And that's exactly what the NBA doesn't want. I mean, think about the last NFL postseason. You guys know this answer better than I do, but there were probably 7 or 8 teams that went to the NFL postseason thinking they had a shot to win a Super Bowl. Right now, you go into the NBA playoffs, at most, there are 4. And the NBA thinks that number could shrink even further if these stars start clustering together again.
So if we don't see a lot of trades this week, is that the reason why the teams are waiting?
Well, I think the big reason why is that's part of it because, if you're a team like Boston, for example, and you really like Al Horford, I think that's the case. They love Al Horford down in Atlanta. Why would you give up a small fortune in assets, multiple draft picks, plus players to get a guy that you might have a chance to sign outright in free agency and keep all your assets? So, teams like Atlanta, teams like Houston with star players that they're dangling out there, they may be looking for a Godfather-type deal, but they're just not going to get it because these teams are not going to give up real assets for players they can make a run at for free, basically, in terms of what they'd have to give up in free agency.
Chris Mannix of Yahoo Sports, The Vertical, joining us. He's also a Vermont homeowner. Good job out of you there. Now, the Atlanta Hawks are perplexing. You talked yesterday that they may break this whole thing up. They finally seem to be a level-headed, competitive team, and they're thinking about breaking it up. Does that make sense to you?
It makes some sense because when they lost Amari Carroll as a free agent, it took away a lot of their potential as a conference title contender. Remember, Amari Carroll is a defensive stopper who did a great job in spurts last year defending LeBron one-on-one. And look, they were a very good team last year, and they still got swept by Cleveland in 4 games. I mean, the teams that are below Cleveland right now, and especially a team like Atlanta, which is not in that kind of building stage of their process, they've got guys that are 29, 30 years old that are just hitting the prime of their careers. They're looking at it like, well, if I add on to this group, does that mean I can eclipse Cleveland someday? Atlanta doesn't think that. At least they don't think that wholeheartedly. That's why they're looking at these deals. All that being said, I don't see Atlanta just gutting the team for no reason. If you offer them a quality starting level small forward plus a first-round pick, they'll trade you Al Horford. If you don't, they'll keep him and make every effort to re-sign him in the offseason.
I want to go to the West Coast teams. The Lakers, not a lot of buzz about them making any trades. Clippers, a lot of buzz around Blake Griffin. Do you think either of those teams does anything today or tomorrow?
No, the Clippers is much ado about nothing at this point. I mean, they may trade Lance Stevenson. They may wind up with Channing Frye on the roster, but they're not going to be able to do anything and not willing to do anything really with Blake Griffin before the deadline. Doc Rivers, for better or worse, he thinks the core of this team can still win a championship, and he's going to give them one chance this summer to get that job done. As far as the Lakers go, I mean, you can make an offer for Roy Hibbert, you can make an offer for Nick Young, but what exactly you're going to get for 2 guys that nobody really finds appealing anyway? You're not going to deal D'Angelo Russell, and you're not going to deal Julius Randle. So the Lakers, they're just biding their time. The Kobe retirement tour is in full swing, 25, 26 games left in that stretch. They'll let Kobe walk away at the end of the year. They'll probably look for a new coach at the end of the year and try to build around those 2 players I mentioned, plus hopefully one of those top 3 picks in the draft that'll be really good.
Got one more question about the trade deadline. I want to ask you about Kobe. If you were betting, what do you think he's doing for a living next year, or is he off the radar?
Yeah, I think he's off the radar for at least 1 year. I mean, Kobe's always talked about wanting to go and play overseas. And I don't think he'll play overseas, but could I see Kobe, pulling the Marvin Hagler, going to live in Italy for a year or something like that? Sure, I could see that, taking his family over there and just falling off the grid a little bit, because Kobe knows when he comes back, whatever time that is, there are going to be options for him, whether it's TV, general managership, even coaching if he decides to go down that rabbit hole. But for the next year, I would expect Kobe to kind of disappear off the radar.
If we talk tomorrow night, is there one or what would be the most likely landscape-changing trade in the NBA? Just possible.
Frankly, I think we might have already seen it. We might have seen it with Tobias Harris because it doesn't make the Pistons a title contender, but it puts them in that second tier, I think, right behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. The efforts will be made to deal with Dwight Howard, to try to pry either Jeff Teague or Al Horford away from Atlanta. But, as I enumerated earlier, the reasons are long for why teams won't give up real assets for that. So I think there'll be a lot of chatter, a lot of smoke, but I'm not sure you'll see a big name get moved before the deadline.
Chris, let me pitch you a couple more Pilgrim names as long as I have you. Former Arizona
This is
shooting
really
guard
exciting, I got to tell you. That's
Miles
nice.
Simon, that's a good one.
Ooh.
That could be a Samuel Dellenberg. I mean, come on. He was on the Mayflower, and he was a effective shot-blocking center. Ralph Sampson,
Is this what a potential down-the-line radio show featuring you is going to sound like?
This will market that.
Yeah, Tobias Harris.
I don't
come
know.
on.
The Amish market? I mean, what market are you trying to hit there?
We're huge in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, crush.
You're kind of
Nice.
stepping on Fritzy's territory here by going awkward name list. I'm shocked that you went there. You're gonna go Valentine. Hey, how about Ricky Hart and?
Yeah, but Fritzy's
Oh,
not.
you want to talk about Ricky Rubio? I mean, we got time for that. Right?
We're out of time on that. Let me ask you something, Chris. Now, you're a clothes horse. Last night when we walked into the party, McLovin had a suit on. I was casual, and the first thing you said, like, "Hey, we're at this nice party, Sports Illustrated swimsuit party." I go, "Hey, Chris." You said, "Hey, underdressed." That's an opener.
Well,
Now-
I mean, you did. You had jeans and a long sleeve T-shirt on at a party that was not black tie, but the closest thing you'd come to it. I mean, did you expect a compliment on your Levi Strausses? I mean, what do you want me to say there?
Yeah, Paul, did you come from the gym to the party? What was going on there? You had like a blue workout shirt.
workout shirt. I was dressed as. I thought that's the move, Seton, to underdress for these Big Ten parties.
Yeah, you gotta underdress the right way though.
Right.
You can't go sweats in a stained shirt.
All right, well, hold on. Seton and two-a-days can't say anything because you guys left at like 8:30, so I don't want to hear from you on this subject at all.
Seton was a working man last night.
Yeah, but my outfit game was killing it. So
Get a little nervous on the red carpet. Chris, thanks for joining us. And how can people check out the 3 p.m. show tomorrow on Yahoo?
Yeah, tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. It's the Vertical Trade Deadline special. Go to Yahoo Sports. Follow me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting links out. Follow Woj on Twitter, as everybody in the NBA world is going to leading up to the deadline. We're going to have a 90-minute special on Yahoo Sports. It's going to be great.
Don't steal that Amish NBA bit. We'll be all over it if you do. Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for calling in.
I'll keep it to myself. Thanks, guys.
It was Pilgrim, but whatever. I have a whole different set of Amish players.